Hey, my all-time favorite thing to do when I'm presenting is tell stories. Actually, even more fun than telling them is crafting them, right? It's taking a story, whether it's like a sensational moment or just even something mundane, but then it's all in how it's told. And I want to give you an example of kind of a really sensational story about if, this person was in a car crash and how they might go ahead and tell this story. Okay, so let me just go over to some slides here for you to see this. So let's say this might be typically how somebody would tell this story of how they got in a car wreck, right? I was driving down the freeway, minding my own business, when this truck cuts into my lane. I can't do anything, and it hits me, and before I know it, I roll over, and my truck stops, and I'm literally lying upside down in my truck, right? So that might be a way for somebody to tell that story, but we can do so much more with that. We can do so much more. So let's see, what can we do with that? Again, there's no necessarily right or wrong here, but imagine if we changed it to this. Let's say we start this like this. Well, you wouldn't do this at the bar with your friends, but you would do this at the beginning of a presentation. Check this out. When you're lying upside down in your car and your mouth is full of glass, you don't even hear that the horn is blaring. I'll never forget, because it was Friday morning and I was driving my Jeep along the 95 freeway. The sun was shining, the smell of fall was in the air, and I was listening to Whatever It Takes by Imagine Dragons, when suddenly, out of nowhere, this massive 18-wheeler cuts right into my lane. Okay, so I want to walk through this a little bit. Now, obviously, it's a little bit more words, only about 8 more seconds of words, but let's take a look at what I was doing there. There's at least 5 different things that I've done here on purpose, and I'll show you what they are. So the first one is what you see in pink there. This is a powerful hook to pull people into the story. It's also an open loop. I've made videos about open loops before. And again, it's a dramatic beginning. And so, like I said, you wouldn't maybe use that in the bar with your friends, but if you're opening a presentation, that's a great way to open a presentation, right? Because people are like, they just want to know, hey, what happened? It's very dramatic, and it's a very powerful hook. Then you'll see that there's a few descriptors I added in the yellow there, and this is what I'm doing is I'm engaging more sensory receptors in the brain. We know from neuroscience that when people tell stories, it activates parts of our brain, right? Smell, even touch, movement, things like that. And so I said, hey, it's Friday morning. I'm driving my Jeep, right, along the 95 freeway. The sun was shining and the smell of fall was in the air, and I was listening. Right? So what I've done is I've just created a more rich image in your mind versus, this one. Hey, I was driving down the freeway minding my own business when this truck cuts into my lane. That's accurate, right? It gets the information across, but it doesn't paint a picture. Now, you can go overboard on this as well, and that's no good, but this reads pretty easy, right? If I was speaking, I might say something like that. Hey, it's Friday. I remember it so well. It was a Friday morning. I was driving my Jeep along the 95 freeway, the sun shining, the smell of fall was in the air, and I was listening to, Whatever It Takes by Imagine Dragons. So the reason I included that in there, my music choice says something about me, also bonds me with like-minded people. For those who like Imagine Dragons, for those who don't, then they don't really care, right? But, and then I use the word suddenly. Suddenly cues drama. And this is always the beginning of the inciting incident. Now, if you've taken any training about storytelling, you'll know that there's always an inciting, or there always should be an inciting incident. In other words, pre-story, inciting incident, and then the drama starts, right? The tension begins. And so suddenly, it just kind of cues the brain, like people are going to pay up and pay attention, sit up and pay attention. Out of nowhere, this massive, I use massive instead of just, what did I say here? When this truck cuts into my lane. What kind of truck? But if I say a massive 18-wheeler, now everyone has that picture, right? Because you've all driven on the highway and some big trucks come over and it's a bit scary, cuts right into my lane. So anyways, these are just some small things that I added to make this story much richer. Now, we could get rid of we could change the hook if we wanted, if that was too dramatic and you're going to share a story like that, let's say at a meeting with your team, okay, then maybe we're going to shift that a little bit. But think when you, first of all, use stories when you're presenting. You got to. But when you're telling a story, just remember that story that you have, even the mundane story that you got up and you were on your way to the gym and then you found out that you left your, your shirt at home or something. There's a story in there, right? You may not think there is, but it's okay to be descriptive. In fact, if you do it intentionally, it brings the story to life. And why is that important? Because it pulls people into our presentation. Well, why do we want that? Just so that they'll listen to us? Yes, because we have a message, right? At the end of the day, we have a message that we're trying to get across, and so we need people's full attention. We need them totally absorbed in what we're saying, okay? So if you'd like to learn more about how to tell stories and even the 7 different types of stories that you can use in presentations, then you might be interested in checking out my upcoming workshop on captivating presentations, persuasive presentations. I'll leave a link for you right below this video, and you can go check out all the details and see if it's something that you love to do. All right, that's it for this video. Remember, don't just tell a story. Think about a way that you can make it richer with more detail, because that's going to pull people in even more.